Shri Ananda Guru Padambujanmani Savilasa Mahamoho Graha Graseka Karamani Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Vadarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punaha Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmiti Murti Bheda Vibhagini Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So in our previous session, we were discussing what is the handle, what are the way, how do we get out of what we call samsara, which is essentially a state of being not independent. You're in bondage. You're not happy. You have a lot of thoughts as to why I'm in this kind of a state. And starting from the very beginning of this chapter, we are dealing with a good example of a painting, and there are four layers of realities. You have the pure cloth, which doesn't have any color or anything, and then you have a certain base which is created with the help of certain materials to give it a smooth surface. And in fact, that pure cloth no more is available to you because you have a layer of painting, and then you draw the lines, and then you fill those lines or the contours with colors. The first one is Suddhachit, and then you have this whole line, isn't it? That is Ishvara, yeah, Antaryami, all pervading that Maya Upahita Chaitanya. Then you have the Hiranyagarbha, Sutratma, and then Virat, the physical, the material or non-material, together the universe which is there before you. And we were discussing one by one how we can learn not to confuse the tiny small girls who are playing in a park and they are part of the painting and they're wearing some clothes, that color which is there. We would discuss today how the colors which are painted on these girls' dresses, the contours, has no real linkage with the canvas proper. The canvas proper is just a piece of cloth, and after that you have a coat which is given, on which the color is given. The color touches that base coat, it doesn't touch the cloth. Therefore, the text explained to us in the previous verse, if you look at the verse number 13, he says, before that, in the verse number 12, we had a long discussion on it, that from 11 onwards, we are trying to say that the real relationship between the colors of the dress, first thing, that's not the real dress. The real cloth is what we aren't being able to see because there's a white paint or coat which is given on which lines are drawn, and then the paintings are created, the images are created, filling those empty spaces with different kinds of colors. And we had a long discussion that what is this? Sansara Bhranti, Atma Bhasasya Jivasya Sansaro Na Avastunaha, Natma Avastunaha, Itivado Bhaveta Vidyaya Lavate Aso Vicharanat. That we need to have this Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka. In fact, I'm just trying to recapture because of a few 2-3 days gap that we have had. Chitrasta Parvatadinam Vastrabhaso na Likshate Sustista Mritikadinam Chidabhasas Tatha Nahi. First thing, the question was that if you are talking about that Chidabhasa alone is creating this samsara is mind, it's no direct Chidabhasa is that mind that you have in the simplest terms, the jiva. And then there was a discussion that actually why then Chidabhasa is not there, everything in the samsara that doesn't have a subjectivity, that doesn't have a mind. The mountains, the rivers, we had a discussion on that. Like in the painting, you do not give dress to the mountains and the rivers. Similarly, depending on the reflecting substance on which, it's plain water or water which is moving, and plain water you have a clear image. So wherever you have that samarthya, that capacity, it's a good reflector. At that level, is in biology they would say that the mind develops at a certain level of evolution. You have Chidavasa coming. And that is the kind of samarthya of that particular thing because of the karmas and all kinds of forms of life that we assume. Now, having distinguished between Jara and a Chetana, in the verse number 9, I'm not getting into the details because we have already discussed it. He's saying, Sansaraha paramarthoyang sanglagnaha swatma vastuni iti vrantira avidyasad vidyesha nivartate. Now, the confusion that the sansara, that means this images that you see on the painting, we have to go back to that example to understand it easily without getting into too much of philosophical confusion. The painted images of girls on that canvas do not have immediate relationship with the pure canvas, the pure piece of cloth. In between there's a coat. Yeah. Similarly, the sansara, when you have that confusion, that is sansara. This whole duality that we see, that we are talking to somebody, this is real, this is unreal, it has something to do with our subjectivity. Our subjectivity is also jada in a certain sense. It's tameo bhantam anuvadi sarvam tasya bhasa idam sarvam vibhati, the text says. That the mind lights up things with the original source of the light being the Atma Tattva. I'm not again going to dwell upon this verse because you have done it. And in the verse they say Atma bhasasya jivasya sansaro natma vastunaha. Therefore, he's saying jivasya is that painting is related to that underlying quote. It has nothing to do with. So, who is the creator of the sansara? Is Ishvara, the Maya Upahita Chaitanya, Antaryami, all pervading thing. But he has that Upadhi. Suddha Brahman has nothing to do with the sansara. Maya Upahita Chaitanya, Ishvara is the creator. Brahma doesn't create anything, nor does it destroy anything. It remains what it is. It's Sachidananda Vigraha, as we do the prayer all the time. Iti bodha bhaveda vidyaya lavate aso vicharana. How do you get it? How do you have this understanding? That Brahman is not in connection, in relationship with anything. All the relations are in fact imagined in the Brahman. There is no real relationship. Okay? And this particular Ashanga, which is non-attached, which is unconnected, it doesn't mean it's idle or something. This mentioning of Asanga Sabda essentially is trying to show you that all that moves in the samsara, all the facts and figures and values that we all the time are preoccupied with, belong to a domain which is not pure consciousness. The pure consciousness is not touched by any of these. And when you do, and is it easy to accept? It's not easy to accept. It's not easy to understand either. Therefore, we need vicharana. We need to meditate on it, why it's so. And that's why we're doing this Chitradeepa Prakarana. So, and then in the verse number 12, I'm just touching upon it. Sada vicharaye tasmat jagat jiva paratmanaha. You should do all the time this nitya nitya vastu viveka. The three things, jagata, jiva, and ishvara, or this Brahman. So you need to all the time say jagat and jiva, they are kind of intricately related to each other. But the next level, the Brahman thing, the Chaitanya, he's at a high level. He's the underlying reality of all realities, but not touched by any of it, not affected by any of it, nor is he affecting anything. And yet, without that, all this will not make any sense. Please understand this. The rope is there, and we see a snake in it. Without the rope, snake is impossible. But the rope has nothing to do with the snake, except that there is some kind of a similarity. It is 3 feet tall, and therefore the snake becomes 3 feet tall. But the snake exists in our subjectivity. It doesn't lie in the rope. The rope is, in a certain sense, the causal factor behind the snake, but without having any direct causal link. There's no relationship as such. Therefore, jiva bhava jagata bhava vadhe swatmeva shishyate. What does remain if you start removing all these layers? you have the paintings, then you have those lines, and then what you have is you have that white coat made of, they use different kind of material in India for preparing those traditional paintings. It could be a kind of poris made of rice and some kind of adhesives, lark, and they would mix some other adhesive. They prepare a white coat and they paste it on the, because a piece of cloth will not hold any colors. You just need that surface to be able to paint on it. So they give it that layer, and that layer is what is Ishvara. And that is the upadi, that is the adhyasha and the pure piece of cloth. So if somebody wants to reach to the cloth, he has to understand there are three layers beyond which he has to see the cloth. He has to be there. And how do you do it? If you're a mumukshu, if you want liberation, yatha paramatma swarupa vicharaha avashyaha avashyam kartabhya tatha tad avasishanaya jagat jiva swarupa vicharupe kartabhya iti bhavaha. Now, you cannot get to the cloth if you do not understand what is preventing you from reaching that piece of cloth. There are just three things. You have the colored images, you have the lines, and then you have that quote, beneath which you have that pure piece of cloth. Similarly, in order to realize the Suddha Brahman, we have to go beyond. Go beyond what? We have to go beyond, we have to do Panchakosha Viveka. This body is not me, our Annamaya Kosha is not me. We have already done it. We have Tattva Viveka Prakarana. We have already been through a lot of Vedantic analysis, and then we are sort of dealing with it after doing Mahavakya Vichara. This is the detailed part of the meditation. After knowing what is the conclusion in the chapter 5th, like Ayam Atma Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma. So Prajnanam Brahma and Tattvamasi, where you try to sort of see what is how the equivalence of the Samanadhikaranya of Tat and Tvam, and Prajnanam Brahma, everything that you see end of the day is intelligence. And then you have a more deeper reflection. Ayam Atma Brahma. I am Atma, Brahman. Brahma, it looks like something away from you. I am Atma, you're putting the finger at yourself. Aham Brahmasmi, similarly. And you have a direct aporoksha jnana. And we have discussed that to death. And then, what is that Badha Swarupa? We dealt it with in the chapter 13, very important. Na pratitis tayor vadha. Na apratitihi. You can just take some intoxicants and go to sleep. This kind of dissociative technique that you adopt. You have exams and you feel tense, you don't want to think about it. You had a breakup with a person, you don't think about her or him, and then what do you do? Dissociative. Remove everything about that person from your house. All the pictures and the gifts and everything. But are you free from it? No. When you actually are able to see that person and not get frightened, you're not traumatized anymore. You are able to say hello and yet not get affected, then only you have transcended that person. Therefore, he's saying, Mithyatva Nishchayaha. So you see everything, it continues to appear. We have had a very long discussion on it. What is this Mithyatva Nishchayaha? If you want to sort of look at it, experimental psychology, I could say that particular page, and that'll be interesting going forward. Let's imagine I just go to that page and I'll share that page with you. What is this? Yeah. Now, look at it. Now you just look at this picture. The distance, there is this part of blue and black. Okay. Now, actually, what is changing in this picture is these arrows. They are going outward and inward. The distance from here to there, distance from here to here, they remain the same, roughly about a centimeter. But it appears as if this part is getting smaller and bigger. Yeah. So it's like a pulsating image. There's absolutely nothing. The changes that are taking place is in this part, the arrow part. The distance remains the same. Similarly, he has given this particular image. If you look at it, there's a very popular, the Muller layer illusion. Is a German experimental psychologist. If you look at it, the distance A and B, these lines are actually of same size. This one looks bigger, this one looks smaller. And why so? And you can just look at this one. The distance remains the same. But because this part changes, it appears as if it's getting smaller and bigger. So, and similarly, here also you would see as if the distance is getting bigger and smaller. You just look at this whole waves, so they are same length. Nothing moves except the arrows. But then you have this illusion. Why am I bringing this? And you can probe further. There's so much of interesting discussion on it on the web. This is interesting. I'm just giving it to you. This is interesting because we are doing Vedanta, but our Vedanta is very inclusive. We are not scared of science. We actually make use of science to understand Vedanta better. So therefore, he's saying, "Na pratitirstayor vada kintu mithyatva nishayaha nochet susupti murchadav muchyete ayatnatah janaha." So a person who is not making any kind of guru shastradi sadhana, going to guru and listening to it and studying and stuff like that, he just goes to sleep, takes a pill, and then he'll be liberated. If absence of samsara, if just dissociation from a reality is freedom from it, then you will dissociate. That is what is done in very critical cases of addiction. People are given sedatives and anti-craving drugs, and they're given certain medicines to put them to sleep because they are in a big state of being traumatized. A person is severely depressed, has panic attacks, chronic depression. Um, how do you save that person? He's unable to have judgment. So you give them a sedative. They go to sleep for several hours and slowly they try to. Many of the medications that you take in either anxiety or depression is just a sedative. Silence is the cognitive process, the thinking mechanism in the brain, but doesn't solve the problem. There is where comes the role of the counselor. He is the acharya, Vedanta acharya, who comes in to tell you that, look here, this is exactly a mental delusion you have. But to remove a delusion takes a long time. Medicine cannot remove it. You can, if you have any friends who are psychiatrists and ask them, you would say that, yeah, personality disorder and delusion, hard to remove because that requires an awakening of the self, that requires insight, not medicine. Similarly, somebody says, what is the need for talking about some kind of thing which is remaining at the bottom of it? The Buddhists say everything is sunya, right? You remove everything. Everything is illusion. You just remove them from your discussion. Then you are free. No, you are not free. The real freedom comes when you are able to deal with this samsara as it appears, but at the same time, you're transcending it. And that is what we were at in the verse number 14 in the last class. परमात्मावशेषोऽपि तत्सत्यत्वविनिश्चयः न जगद्विस्मृतिनो स्मृति नो चेत् जीवन मुक्तिर्न संभवेत्. And this is a little more critical, which we were touching in the last class. Na jagad vismritir, this whole thing about dissociation, disconnecting yourself, forgetting it, that is not liberation. Because when you're talking about Jivana Mukti Avastha, this person is not in a state of sleep or he is in a state of eternal samadhi and meditation. There are a lot of yogis who will enter into a cave. We have read about them who can be in meditation for hundreds and thousands of years, theoretically speaking. We know about Mandhata who had gone to fight a battle on behalf of the gods with the demons, the asuras, rakshasas, and he won it. And he was in Swargaloka for a year, and there is a time scale which is very different. One day in Swarga is hundreds of years here, and when he comes back to Earth after 1 year, he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to Earth to my family." He said, "You don't have any family. Why?" He said, "No, they have all perished. They are hundreds and thousands of years have gone. Where are you going? Dwapara Yuga is no more. I mean, the Treta Yuga, whatever Yuga in which you had come here, it's not there anymore." And he comes back and he finds that he's very tall. People have become very small because in earlier ages, humans were much taller. And he has no one, and he's in a state of depression. So he tells Indra, "Give me a blessing that I'm going to get deep sleep. I don't want to see this reality. Whatever time I have to pass on earth because of Prarabdha, I would like to get into a state of meditative sleep. And that is how he enters into a cave and is put to sleep. And he is blessed with a boon that when Lord Narayana takes a human body, he's going to give you advice and he's going to liberate you. And that is how he goes to a state of sleep and for a long time. And then Lord Krishna appears in his life and gives him blessings. And now, what is the critical thing? It's the important thing is not whether he slept for so long, whether he had actually gone to heaven, whether he came back, whether he assumed a human body again. Is it all scientifically real? That's not the interesting part of it. The interesting part of it is that you are having difficulty with the reality. Solution doesn't lie in closing your eyes and getting into a state of meditation just for the sake of dissociation. If you ask any psychological counselor who say that I'm in doing meditation and pranayama and stuff like that, you say, yeah, it can ameliorate your condition. But still, you need self analysis, you need the help to have insight. You recognize, yes, I had this problem, I've come out of it, I'm not affected by it. So the real solution lies in understanding. It doesn't lie in avoidance, in dissociation, in suppression, either with medicine or without medicine. A lot of people have depression and this and that, and they want a break. Where do they go? They would go nature reserve. They'll go to Rishikesh, or they go to some beautiful part of nature. You go to Niagara Falls. You spend some time. You have to come back. And there is that problem waiting for you at the doorstep of your office, the doorstep of your family. Everything is going to come back and haunt you again. Unless and until you learn to understand what had happened, how to deal with it. And that is the Vedantic solution. That Badha Nishchayaha, you have to understand all that is there all around you. It's just a set of pictures, a set of phenomenal transactional realities which seem to engulf you. But the real solution lies in having Mithyatva Nishchaya. What is Mithyatva Nishchaya? They are not false. They are transactional. They are phenomenal. They are not nitya. They are anitya. They are here. They are going to look like that. The sky would continue to look blue. If you dip a stick in water, it will look bent. And if you look at a desert on a sunny afternoon, it's going to give you the image as if there's an oasis waiting for you at a distance. There is no water. The stick is straight. It appears as bent, and the sky doesn't have any colors, but it's appearing as blue. And samsara appears real, even though it doesn't have any fundamental reality of its own. The fundamental reality is of Brahman, the Sarvadhara. Therefore, he's saying, Na jagad vismritihi, noche jivana muktir na sambhavet. This part, let's look at it. Jagadar vismritihi, jagato bhavan na avaseshaha. Because the Sunyavadis, or for example, say, what is the need for having a long story? Why don't you cut it short? Terminate this whole samsara. I remember there was this Sadhguru, I'm not taking anyone's guru names, but then in Latin American countries, there is some kind of an intoxicant which sort of gives you a high. I don't know, there is a certain name, Spanish name to it. I don't remember the name. You can Google and find it out. And if you take it, you are on a high and you're not troubled by whatever appears around you. A lot of people in India or in the West and other places, they take some mild intoxicant. It could be alcohol, it could be marijuana, it could be anything. Now that guru, and actually some sadhak asked it, I do it, I take a little of it and it helps me in my meditation. Is it bad or good? A lot of this puckered, babas in the Himalayas, they take ganja. And why do they take it? Is it a mark of their jnana or ajnana? There are certain jnani purushas, they have also taken marijuana. I'm not removing it from the discussion, like Gajan Giri Maharaj in Maharashtra used to smoke chillam. That is there. But that doesn't give you liberation. That doesn't give you understanding. All these guys, in a way, smoke marijuana not to deal with what is right before them. The real jnanis don't need any intoxicants. Intoxicants, in fact, diminish your ability to do vichara. It doesn't enhance your ability to do vichara. Therefore, he's saying, Jivana muktihi jivada eva prak sarirat muktihi brahma bhavapatir na sambhaved. If actually this Vishmriti and forgetting is what is liberation, then how do you explain Jivana mukti? He's not forgetting the world. He's there right in the world. And yet he's not affected by it. Like Bhagavad Gita says, Padra Padma Patra Mima Bhasa. So, like in water, you have the lotus flower not touched by it, the lotus leaf. Jivana Mukta is here, he's doing everything, he's not touched by anything or anyone. Jagatah mithyatvepi tadbhanasya sarirapatat prag apariharyatvaya. So, pariharataya. So, it would be there. So far the body is there, you'd see good and bad. Like, for example, I always give this example. It's like two siblings. One is 3 years old, the other one is 16. He's already preparing to get into college. Yeah, he's in final year of school examination, smart guy, and he has a little brother or sister. They're both watching Jurassic Park, and the little baby brother or sister is getting scared looking at the picture. And what is the elder brother doing? The elder brother or sister who is completing the school, he's having maybe ice cream or chocolate, he's laughing and holding the little brother. Relax. He has passed through that stage. Right now, he knows it's a picture. He's not scared of that huge, fearsome animal on the screen because he knows it's a picture. There's nothing real about it. The Jivanamukta is that elder brother who has been through all this nonsense of life, but then now he has got the Jnana Chakshu where he can do Vichara, and there is sublation happening. Badha. It appears as bent, it appears as broken, it appears as blue, it appears like a blue oasis. These are images. He knows that. And that is his Jivana Mukti. Now we would go to the verse number 15 from where we're supposed to. I hope I have. Let me look at the whole tika in case I have missed out. Jaga jivayor mithyatva jnana siddhau paramatma avaseshah paramatmanah parishishtaya parishishtita nama tat satyatva vinishayah paramatma eva satyamiti dridjnanam eva. So, what is foundationally real in that image that you see? We'll go back to that example. This is the chapter about that picture image. What is the foundational truth? It's the canvas. Is there anything on it? No. It has any colors? No. Then you have this white coat, one layer. Then you have the lines, second, third layer. Fourth one is, in fact, all these colors which are put into the contours, and therefore you have images of trees, plants, stones, and little girls and boys playing some kind of a game in a park. You also have a sky, you have sun. You know what is the most important thing? Chitradeepa Prakarana. Keep understanding. If you have a torchlight in your hand, you can remove darkness. Yeah. If you have a lamp in a picture, is it going to remove darkness? It would not. Real light would remove darkness. Your cognitive subjective self cannot remove darkness. The real light which is coming out of the Atma, that foundational thing, if we recognize its presence, if we are able to do sakshatkara, then we are free from ignorance. That means everything that we see can be lit up with the light of truth. The light of truth doesn't belong to the mind. The light of truth goes beyond the mind's capacity to dispel that darkness. However, we have to make use of the mind to reach there, and that is how we want to go to the next sloka, where this would be even more, elaborately discussed. Now the question, as I was mentioning, nanu neti neti iti sarva vastunam apahane yad avasishyate tadeva paramatma iti uktatvat king tat swarupa nishya prayatna gauravena. Why to make all these hard efforts to know Gauravena? Why to try so much to understand what is? Because you have said before, Neti Neti, remove everything. Then you would have Paramatma Jnana. He says, no. There are twofold efforts. One is Mithyatva Nishaya, then Brahmani Satyatva Nishaya. Sansara is Mithya and Brahman is Satya. There are the two sides of this. The Brahma Nishya would happen only after Mithyatva Nishya of the Sansara. Therefore, Jagataha Mithyatva Jnanena eva tad vrishmritya bandhaka prapancha nivritehe. Jagata Mithyatva Jnanena eva. Okay? ज्ञानेन एव बंधक प्रपंच निवृत्ति अतः परमात्मा अवशिष्य इति अनेन जगत विस्मृति रूप अवशेष एव विवक्षणीय इति आशंक्याः. If somebody has this doubt in his mind that if I have mithyatva nishaya, then end of the day the Ishvara Jnana would happen. So why else I have to meditate on what remains, and that is Atma. That Atma Nishya, what is the use of it? He's saying, no, no. You please understand, Jagat Vishmritihi Jagato Bhanam na avasesha. Thus denying the existence of the sansara, Brahma Satya Jagana Mithya. Jagana Mithya, you just remove everything, reject it as a delusion. Some superficial Vedanta teachers might say, Sab jhoot hai. No, everything is a lie. That doesn't give you any Atma Jnana. And there are other people who would say, no, you are Brahman, what are you looking for? What is the need for going to a temple or church or the mosque or read the scriptures? That is the other extreme. Because you might look at these sentences and feel either elated, or you feel you have surmounted all pain and anxieties and depressions and stresses of life. You are free. No, that's a long process, and that is what we are doing here. Jagatah mithyatvepi tadvanasya sarirapatat frag apariharyataya. So how the body is there, you can just listen to one of these social media posts saying that you are truly the universal self. That's not false, that's real. But that's not Atmajnana. You haven't realized yet. By just going by the sentence. So far the body is there, you continue to have the sansara. Therefore, you have to have an understanding about what is Atmajnana. That is what we are now entering in the verse number 15. Poroksha Vidya Swarupa Vicharaha. What is Poroksha Jnana and Aporoksha Jnana? Why am I raising this question? Why the author is interested in this topic? Please pay attention to it. We are studying a book based on the Upanishadic insights. This book is drafted by one of the greatest acharyas to help us understand what is Atma Tattva. How we understood it? Yes, we have discussed it so far. We have some fairly good understanding of it. Is it Atma Jnana? Are we in samsara? Have we got liberated? We are not liberated as yet. Therefore, the acharya says that, say for example, you remember your physics practical classes. So the professor would come and give you a theoretical, say for example, in the classroom, what do they teach you in heat and stuff like that? What is specific heat? So they would give you some theories and stuff like that, and would say that different substances, different metals have different specific heats. They tell you in the class. And then they'll take you to the laboratory and they'll give you different sticks of different alloys or metals and say, okay, tell me what is the specific heat of it. Then comes your challenge, because you have to accurately find out what is the specific heat of that particular metal stick in the lab. No? Similarly here, you understand something theoretically, that gives you poroksha jnana, indirect knowledge. You are yet to know what it is. Somebody gives you a picture of what it is to be there at the North Pole. Yeah, we know, see, of course, there's a lot of videos and a lot of YouTube channels. You have access to a lot of realities which otherwise you wouldn't see. How the brain functions, what are the circuits and stuff like that. Very difficult to know. Earlier students wouldn't have this, but now you have some kind of a presumption that you know it directly because you're seeing some pictures, some kind of a grasp through sensory organs. But if you haven't been there physically at the North Pole, by reading about what it is, you never get a sense of it. But once you go there, you feel it. That is sakshatkar or poroksha jnana. Now, there is a clear distinction, let me clarify, between pratyaksha jnana and aporoksha jnana. Pratyaksha is indriya, sannikarsha janya. There is indriya sannikarsha, you are seeing through your sense organs. What is Atma? Avangmanashagochara. Yato vasu nivartante aprapya manasasa. So you cannot access it through words, through thoughts, and through your sense organs. So you do vicharana, and after some time, you ascertain, yes, I know what it is. You first believe God exists by reading this text. Sometimes you have, very quick glimpses of this divinity through some Atma Anubhuti, like somebody saved your life, or you were in a disease, sort of raise their hands, and then suddenly that person revives. I was just yesterday talking to a doctor who works with the World Health Organization. He's a great Jagannath devotee. He was driving me from Puri, and he said, as a scientist, of course, if you tell me that there is a divinity in Lord Jagannath's deity, hard for me to accept because I'm a scientist, I'm a doctor. But then I have had some experience because of which I look at divinity and spirituality in a different way. He was talking about a patient who was an old person, 80 plus, he was in a hospital in critical care, and everybody had raised their hands, and suddenly at night, this guy is a medicine specialist. He's not a cardiologist. Suddenly the ECG monitor showed the straight line, heartbeat stopped. And this fellow was extremely religious all the time doing this, even instead of sleep, and he used to say, what do you see? Whom do you remember? Whom do you pray? He said, no, Jagannath. Since my child, I have been praying him and I pray him. And he said, this fellow is such a big believer in God, God should try to do something about him. So, he's in a state of confusion, and he said that they give electric shocks, but that has to be cleared by a cardiologist. But he prepared the medical sheet saying there is no cardiologist, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and therefore this is a decision in the critical care center that we are going to administer the shocks. Anyway, the person has died, heartbeat has stopped. So you can give maximum 3 shocks, and he gave 2, and suddenly the ECG started showing the heartbeat has started. Generally, some doctors said that after a shock, it can come back alive only for a few minutes, and everything subsides and becomes a straight line again. In his case, he said, I was sitting there like a piece of rock till 5 o'clock in the morning, and the ECG was showing that this person is still alive. And some people came and said, it's going to be morning. Aren't you going to sleep? He said, no, because this person was given electric shocks. He could die again. He said, why you bother? He's 85. He went back, and slowly, after some time, the person didn't die, and then there was oral feeding of medicine and other things, and then he recovered, and he was saying that he called up his son. There was nobody to look after the guy except his grandchild, one boy. And then he called up his grandson. Is your grandpa fine? He laughed and he said, Grandpa has gone to see Rath Yatra and he's doing his Sankirtan. A person who died once, and he was on the medical bed in the critical care for about a month. At about 87, he's there in the crowd where anybody gives you a push, you can die. But he has gone to do Sankirtan because he cannot get rid of it now. You're saying that my science tells me that this is a physical organic thing and it cannot have any divinity in it. At the same time, I'm seeing how the faith works. So how do I look at it? As a scientist, then I am trying to see that maybe in the brain everything is happening, and there are certain control centers which are guided by external inputs in the form of biochemical inputs that they get. But sometimes the person with his own willpower, with his faith, is able to influence those control centers. I mean, that's his take on it. You can have a rational understanding of how faith works. But what is important here is faith works. Vedanta brings in a different dimension to it. He's not trying to limit it to this dualistic perspective that there must be a God to help a person. Vedanta says that end of the day, everything is pure consciousness. And then at the top of it, you have these transactional realities which are unfolding and undergoing changes. So it's possible that that person wouldn't have survived. That wouldn't deny that underlying principle of truth on which everything is playing out. So for a true Vedanti, whether a person survived because of a prayer or he didn't survive would not be so significant. Because here the insight is talking about a deeper level realization, achieving which you would not be disturbed by whether the person survived or he didn't survive. Because this faith is not a dualist faith in which there's a give and take. This is my Lord and he must protect me. These all works at a level. There's no denying it worked. I mean, that's what he has said. But the discussion, this Chitradeepa Prakarana text or two, is in fact a much deeper level realization of the self, which we call aporoksha sakshatkara. And it's not pratyaksha, atma pratyaksha, but this pratyaksha is not through your sense organs. You are doing analysis and discussion, Sravana Manana, and then finally Nididhyasana. At a level, you're using this mind and this whole contemplation in order to transcend this contemplation. All the tags, all the, all the codes and everything that you are using to think about the absolute reality become irrelevant at a point when you have Atma Sakshatkar. Then there is a quantum jump. So let's look at the first sloka and then we'll do vichar on it. Paroksha cha paroksheti vidya dvedha vicharaja. So paroksha and aporoksha iti vidya. The process of realization, one you get paroksha jnana, the other place you get aporoksha jnana with the next level. Dvedha vicharaja. And these both vidyas, paroksha vidya, aporoksha vidya, come out of vichara. That means Atma Sakshatkara is not possible without doing vichara. Please understand. Vichara is a necessary condition for Atma Sakshatkara. Vichara is not a sufficient condition for completing the process of vichara so as you achieve Atma Sakshatkara. When Atma Sakshatkara happens, after that you don't have to do vichara. It loses its significance. Until then, you have to do it. Tatra paroksha vidyaso vicharo yam samapyate. So the printing error. So this vichara ayam vicharaha samapyate when tatra aparoksha vidya aptau. When you get aparoksha vidya means when you have aparoksha shakyatkara, atmijnana, then this becomes irrelevant. It's no more a pressure point for you to continue to do vichara. Like you are writing your term papers, you publish articles and everything. One fine morning, your professor says you have had already 4 international publications. I mean, that was the standard rule during my time in physics in Delhi University to get a PhD. So if you publish 4 papers in international journals and the professor and the committee of people agree that you are good enough, you have done some research, because you're not going to make some big discovery like Einstein or anything, but then 4 papers in good journals, peer-reviewed journals, 4, 5, whatever, they give you a PhD. Once you have a PhD, of course, you can publish more papers, but you don't have to go through this whole chain of activities to get this degree. Degree is done. You have done your coursework, you're finished, you write the exams, you get it. You don't have to do your coursework again. You start writing a dissertation. Similarly, all these processes sort of come to an end. You remember, we had done Shastriya Advaita, Asastriya Advaita. And Shastriya Advaita, when you are Atma Jnana, Shastriya Advaita is Ishvara Guru. You have done Upasana and Guru Shravana. Yeah, all this, whatever he tells, and you do these sadhanas. Once you have Atmajnana, even Shastriya Advaita, you don't need it anymore, because you have already got that non-dual consciousness. Let's look at this, the commentary part of it. So in the verse number 15, then, the first thing he's saying that you have to do paroksha and aporoksha iti vidya dvedha vicharaja tatra aporoksha vidyapto vicharoyam samapyate. Let's look at these sentences. Vicharaja guru shastra vichara jata vidya. Vicharaja pankajata, which is born out of mud, this is the lotus flower. Vicharaja, which is born out of vichara. This is the end product, the consequence, the outcome of doing contemplation. And how do you do this contemplation? Sitting in a room, I would find out what it is. You remember that famous dialogue between Tathagata and Siddhartha in that famous book Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse? Beautiful book in which at one point he meets Tathagata, the luminous one, and he says, if you meditate like this, you will get self-realization. And he said, but who was your guru? Whom did you listen to? And then Tathagata says, no one. I did my own research. I worked very hard on it. And then Siddhartha laughs and says, then why do you advise me to follow your path? You found it by not following anyone. And why do you advise me to find it? By following your words. Tathagata says one sentence which kind of would stick with you. He says, "Be careful. You are cunning with words." Because it's one thing to make a promise to yourself or to presume something about your capacity. The other one is actually doing it. So we have this Guru Parampara. And this Guru Parampara, for example, if somebody wants to work on AI, and if he starts from scratch, he starts with where Archimedes was, would he reach here in one life? No, he wouldn't. So we all have Guru Paramparas, knowledge traditions, and then you are starting from where the progress has already been achieved. You don't work on it, you're moving forward. Similarly, here he's saying Guru Sastra Vichara Jata Vicharat Jata Vidya Poroksha Aporoksha iti Dvedha Bhavati. So two types, it is Aporoksha and Poroksha. And then what is the first one? Tatra Aporoksha Vidyaptav. He's not further telling you, he will tell you in the consequent slokas what is Paroksha and Aporoksha. First, he's showing you the cake or the cookie that you're going to get as a child if you crack that problem. So he sort of creates motivation for you to move forward by saying that once you have Aporoksha Shakyatkara, Tatra Aparoksha Vidyapto Aparoksha Jnana Labhe. Apto means what? When you get Aparoksha Jnana Labhe, Ayam Vicharaha. What is the Vichara? That Nitya Nitya Vastu Vichara. Jagata and Jiva, Swarupa Vada. Per se, they don't exist. Then you get this Atma Jnana. The Atma, that Sarvathishtan Atma, Sachidananda Vigraha, Taswarupa Vicharateya. Finally, you have Atma Nishaya. Atma Jnana Nishya. When you have that, he's saying Vicharaha Satyatva Asatyatva Vishayikaha Samapyate. Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekha. What is Nitya? What is Anitya? What is Satya? What is Mithya? All these Vichara become irrelevant. Yeah, it's like a guy, it happens with a lot of these NRI guys, boys or girls, who take a break, some leave, and they are telling their parents, I have to go. They didn't find anyone in the US or in the West, wherever they are, and they come and tell their parents, find a bride for me or groom for me. And then the parents are desperately looking for a bride. And then he comes and meets about 20, 30 girls, officially visits their homes, talks to their parents, and the interview or the interactions are over. Then he has to decide. He has 3 more days here. And if he agrees, marriage happens. Next time he comes, does he interview anyone anymore? No, why should he? Marriage is done. Similarly, once you have the Aparoksha Jnana, do you still have what is Satya, what is Mithya? Irrelevant, not relevant at all. Similarly, you are giving interviews at 20 places for a job and you have said yes to a job. More phone calls, you are not there. You have already taken up a job. So once you have that Atma Nishaya, when you have that Satyatva Nishaya, then no more distinctions between what is Satya, what is Mithya. I need to have a filter, Vedantic filter. Not relevant. Ayam Vicharaha, Satyatva Asatyatva Vishayakaha Samapate, comes to an end. Aparoksha Sakshatkara Utpati Kshana Eva Vichara Kala Charam Avadihi. So Vichara Kala, are you going to continue this Vichara for all time to come? How long? No, you have to keep on doing it. No, but how long I have to do it? So, for example, there is one piece of advice for the Vedanta students, and they say, Asuptiramrite Nayet Kalam Vedanta Chintaya. So, all the time meditate on the Vedantic insights till you go to sleep on a daily basis until you die. Why is that hard advice? Because you're not sure whether you're going to get Atmajnana. But if you actually have Atmajnana, are you going to do Vichar again? The advice is do it till you die. But if you actually realize the self, if you have Atmajnana, are you going to still do Vichara? No, you don't do it. You look at Thakur's life, Thakur Ramakrishna Paramahansa went to a lot of gurus, and the last one perhaps was Totapuri, and then he had dealt with all schools and all processes and sadhanas, and he was sort of climbing under the wall and said, I know the truth, I'm going to help you. Anybody who wants, ask me, I'm going to tell you. He was already there, he doesn't have any problem, and he wasn't doing any sadhana, whatever. He was in that very normal state, like a very normal person. No more curiosities about anything. No more curiosities about gurus and sastras or anything. Sastra vasana, no. Any kind of vasanas, any kind of upasana vasana, no. There is no more. That is what how he's saying. So there are two things here. First thing, there is an assurance that this is not going to continue for whole of your life, provided you realize what it is. Let's go to the next one, where he would further clarify what is paroksha jnana and what is aporoksha jnana. Now, this is the most important verse in a way. Paroksha parokshyoho swarupam darshayati asti iti. What is paroksha jnana and aporoksha jnana? First, it tells you that if you get aporoksha jnana, there is no more any pressure for you to do vicharana, meditation, study, prayer. No, none of these are required. So he says what it is. Asti brahmeti ched veda paroksha jnanam tat aham brahmeti ched veda sakshat karah sa uchyate. Now this is the difference between. Now the commentator says only one sentence, pasto artha. Okay, we will discuss. It's very clear, there's nothing to explain. Sakshat karam eva aparoksha jnanam iti bhavaha. He said that one commentary. Sakshat karam, atma sakshat karam eva aparoksha jnanam. So there is no distinction between atma sakshatkara and then aparoksha jnana. We will break that and we'll analyze it. So let's go word by word, whatever he has said. Okay? So, what is he explaining here? That what is paroksha? Asti Brahma iti ched Veda. If you say, first he said that paroksha and aparoksha, once you have aparoksha jnana, there is no need for any vichara. Therefore, next he says, Asti Brahma iti ched. If you know, iti Veda ched, if you know Brahman is there, that much nishya you have, happens to you. You had some kind of a spiritual experience. You read a lot. You were a Nastika. You didn't believe in God. You read Upanishads. You read Bhagavad Gita. Attended a lot of satsangs. You did some practice. Had some equanimity. But largely, even as a professor, as an academic, as an intellectual, you read a lot of sastras. And after reading a lot, you came to this conclusion that it is futile to become an atheist. You can be an atheist, but if you are quite sure that there is an underlying reality. So you are like Bernard Kastrup, who is a computer scientist and also is a professor in philosophy. He has done a PhD in philosophy. He works on consciousness. An European intellectual, all over the internet these days, and often having discussions with the Vedantic scholars and the Buddhist scholars. He's saying everything is end of the day consciousness. There's no reality which is external and independent of consciousness. Now, if you say everything is consciousness, Asti Brahma iti ched Veda, if you know this is this, he's saying Paroksha Jnanam eva tat. Is he liberated? I would not say he is or he is not. I haven't met him. All I'm trying to say is that a professor of Vedanta who firmly believes Brahman alone exists and gives a lot of discussions, then you have to look at his life. What does he do? Why he doesn't sort of renounce everything and go? He's continuing it whatever sphere of life is active. But if he's not having the Atma Sakshatkara, he's not liberated in the true sense of the term. And what is that Aparoksha Jnana? Aham Brahma iti ched Veda. If you understand, I am Aham Brahmasmi. We have done the Mahavakya Vichara already. So when you have that sort of a thing, Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahma Ashmi. First, you understand what is Brahman. You understand what is Aham. I'm not this body. I'm not this mind. I'm not the names and forms associated with me. I'm pure consciousness, and this consciousness is verily Brahman that I refer to in third person. I am Atma, Brahman. So both these, when you have that sort of Aparoksha Jnana, he's saying, Aham Brahma iti ched Veda Sakshatkaraha sa uchyate. Then that is what is called Atma Sakshatkara. Okay, so so a little more discussion or meditation on this Padartha Sodhana, Tattvamasi. We have discussed that already. Tat is Vachyartha is Ishvara, Lakshyartha is pure consciousness, Suddha Brahma, Nirakar Brahma, Chaitanya Swarupa. Tvam is Vachyartha is Jivatma, the individual, the pure consciousness which is there in you, Pratyak Chaitanya, like Ghatakasha, that is the Lakshyartha. The Ghatakasha Mahakasha is Vanakasha. Similarly, Chaitanya, which permeates you, and the consciousness which permeates this whole cosmos, this Chaitanya consciousness is one. This is the Vichara. Through these Vichara, if you are reaching there, this is Padartha Shodhana, clarifying the concepts, then it is at best Paroksha Jnana. Why? It's beyond your personal experience. There is no, because he if you remember, in the Aham Brahmasmi, he said, Sada Anubhuyatam, try to experience it. Just theoretically being able to explain it is one thing, but having Upalavdhi, having realization is another thing. Therefore, this Chitradeepa Prakarana, that painted lamp cannot give you light. Similarly, Paroksha Jnana would not give you Atma Sakshatkara. You have to move a step further. Okay, so there are these two statements, Mahavakyas, Prajnanam, Brahma, and Tattvamasi, largely help you quickly gain Paroksha Jnana. That Brahman is there, Sansara is Mithya, you have that Jnana. However, ultimately, Aham Brahmasmi. So when you listen Tattvamasi Svetaketu, and then he says Aham Brahmasmi, if he reaches. Okay, Soham, Aham Aso, he is me and I am that. That is me and I am that. When he has that, Abheda Jnana, then I am Atma Brahma, and then you are truly liberated. In the first person, when you have that kind of thing, if you look into the Western parallels, you had a beautiful distinction made by Broughton Russell between knowledge by description and knowledge by acquaintance. You know about a person, and there is this person who is a beautiful singer, and she is also a good student of physics, and that fellow is also somebody who plays chess very well. You have heard about a person. Then one fine evening, you meet that person in a party. The two sets of experiences or the knowledge. First, you had some description, the other one, you are directly seeing the subject. Similarly, the Paroksha Jnana is you're realizing theoretically, you can convince somebody else, you can convince yourself, but until you fully convince yourself and realize it yourself, it remains Paroksha Jnana. And when that sort of happened, then it becomes Aporoksha Jnana. Let's graduate to the next verse. We'll finish just one more verse and we'll stop here. तत्साक्षात्कार सिद्ध्यर्थम आत्मतत्त्वं विविच्यते येनायं सर्व संसारात् सद्य एव विमुच्यते तत्साक्षात्कार सिद्ध्यर्थम that atma tat means atma tat atma sakshatkara siddhyartham in order to have accomplished it realize it that atma tattva aham brahmasmi the atma tattvam vivichate. What is that atma? You need to do vichara. Yena ayam, through this process of vichara alone, finally, sarva sansarat sadya eva vimuchyate. Now, the sansara mithyatva nishya you have done theoretically. Atma nishya you have done theoretically. But when you realize it, then sarva sansarat sadya eva vimuchyate. Now, there is no, gap between your atma nishya and vimukti, liberation. The sadhya mukti, that is what it is saying. The moment you realize it, the very moment you are liberated in the sense, the sansara doesn't frighten you anymore, you are not troubled by it. But we will dwell upon it a little more before Chit Chatur Vidya Vichara will go into this in the next class. So we'll stop here and let me end with Santi Mantra. Then if you can have questions, you can ask. Om Punnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat. So